beautiful friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm super excited to dive into today's conversation with D'Ann Boal. D'Ann graduated with a master's degree in education, but it wasn't until her son was born she moved to the Caribbean that she picked up a camera and never looked back. Today, she runs a successful photography boutique specializing in newborn child and family photography. She teaches around the country, leads photography retreats and workshops, is an instructor at Click Photo School, a mentor at Click Community, has spoken at Imaging, Click Away, and has won several photography awards, including the Voice Award and Pro Prince Billboard Award. If you guys are not already following Smitten and Spoon on Instagram, you have to go find her and check her out because her work is stunning, especially her use of light. So without further ado, here is D'Ann. Welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for that nice introduction.
So tell us who you are and what you are passionate about.
So I am a photographer, a mom, a former teacher of little kids, and now a teacher of photographers. And I love light. Light is what drew me into photography in the first place. And it's really the challenge of light and the challenge of photography that has really kept me interested and kept me here and kept me wanting to learn. It's such a multifaceted career and art that I feel like there's just always so much more to learn. And that's what really keeps me here.
I love that. Well, I love following you, and I love following you, especially on Instagram, because you always share these super interesting behind the scenes, typically sharing some form of studio light, because I am a studio light nerd myself. I absolutely love my lights. But you've been shooting with Pro Photo, is that right? And
yes.
So tell me a little bit about those, because I'm so close to pulling the trigger on buying myself a new lighting kit, especially something that's mobile. And so tell me about your experience with Pro Photo, and maybe if someone is maybe just getting started with studio lighting, where they would want to look at, and maybe the one that you would recommend.
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have?
I know, right?
A few hours?
Lisa, yeah. That was 25 questions.
No, it was great. I love it. There's just so much to talk about with this. Okay. I had a Westcott light that was continuous. That was my very first studio light, but I didn't really have a deep understanding of light back then when I was using it. So once I had a really deep understanding of light was when I kind of consider that's when I got my first light, and it was the Pro Photo B10. And having a deep understanding of light when I got that light really gave me an aha the moment that I fired it. I just got it out of the box and turned it on and put it behind my subject and fired it. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is just like having the sun wherever I want it. And then I got a modifier and I popped a modifier and I was like, it's like, oh, I have north facing window light. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And the Pro Photo system is incredible because the batteries last forever. I can do a whole shoot on location outside using high speed sync, which takes more battery.
Yeah.
And on one battery. So I always have extra batteries packed, but I never really need them in the middle of a shoot. They're so intuitive. There's just 3 buttons.
Yeah.
It's just, they're really powerful. They're small for their power, and you can take them with you. And the new A series, they have this soda can size. It's like the size of my teacup.
Yeah.
It's literally this size, and I use it all the time. I now have a bunch of them, and I use all of them. And there's all these different modifiers you can click on, but the battery again lasts forever. You can take them everywhere, and you just can make the light that you want. So instead of waiting for golden hour to get backlight, or instead of waiting for the afternoon when the light's going to spill through the window in a certain way, you can just make it. And so it's amazing. It's kind of like magic. I love it. So I love sharing it. I really love light. It's what brought me to photography. Yeah. And so I feel like sharing it with others, because I think off-camera flash can feel really daunting. So I feel like I love sharing it with others and showing others what can be done just really easily.
I love that. Well, so what I love, I have been a Paul Buff user for the past 12 years. I've got all the things, right? And I've had the Vagabond, but it's never been my love. And mine actually just died. And they're like, actually, you have to replace it now. And I was like, really? So now I'm like, well, I've been seeing all your posts, and I'm like, oh, I think this girl's going to be going shopping. So I want somebody to play with on location.
Yeah, I have a link in my bio of my Instagram. If you click the link in my bio, a few things pull up, and one thing is my lighting kit. So that
I
you
love
can
it.
click there, and then there's a link to get everything. But the new A2 with all the click modifiers are so fun. They're so
Really?
fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. I love it. Well, I'm definitely going to check that out, and we will make sure to include all that info in the show notes as well for our
Great.
listeners.
Perfect.
So I want to hear a little bit about moving to the Caribbean and becoming a photographer. So can you share a little bit about your journey with that?
Sure. So I was a teacher and I taught fifth grade, and I loved that job with all my heart. It was really what I felt like I was put on the earth to do. I'd wanted to be a teacher my entire life. And I just felt like, oh, my dreams came true to have a classroom of my own, and it was sparkly, and there were plants, and there was a pond with koi fish and lights everywhere. It was just like, it was the most beautiful space, and I loved the children that I taught. And my husband was applying to vet school, and he was applying to several, but he got into one in the Caribbean, and he's a surfer, and he's always kind of had this, he's had a little wild dream to travel. Like he wasn't ready to grow roots. I was ready to grow roots and have my classroom, but he wasn't. And so, and he wanted to be a veterinarian. And so for him, it was like three dreams at once. He could travel, he could surf, and he could become a vet. And I was pregnant, and he said, yeah, he accepted. And so, our son was born, and 4 weeks later he moved to the Caribbean. And then I had to wait another 4 weeks till, my son Calvin was old enough to fly there, and we moved there. And so I left the classroom, and my, Andrew, my husband's parents, had given me a camera for Christmas the year before, and I brought that with me, and it was just like me and my son. And it's a developing island, and so there's no like mom and me yoga class. There's no like safe walk to take. There's no library. There was just me and my son in our little house, and we'd go to the beach, and I'd wrap him in mosquito netting, and as he got older, I just started taking pictures of him, and it evolved, like so many of us moms, into a business. So by the time my husband was done with vet school, my daughter had been born, and I was starting to take clients.
Love it. I am a lifetime learner, and I actually just got your new course for the love of light. And I really love your analogy on editing a soup. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that analogy with our listeners?
Sure. So I talk in that video about how when I was in college, I always liked to cook, but when you're in college, it's like your first time for lots of us, where you're like making all your own meals. And I got a Barefoot Contessa, an Ina Garden cookbook, and I cooked my way through every single recipe in the book. And then I got another one, and I cooked all her recipes. She really taught me how to really cook well. And the thing that I realized was, when you're looking at like a pan of soup a pan, and wondering how to make all these vegetables turn into soup, how there's a method for what she does. She starts with olive oil and butter, and then she adds in onions, and then more flavors and vegetables, and then the broth, and there's a method for what she does, and it's repeated throughout. And then you get another cook and their cookbook, and you see they might do something a little bit different, but they still have a similar method. And I remember when I was looking at Photoshop for the first time, just being like, what in the world? How does anyone even know where to start? Or Lightroom? Like, where do you even start? What do you even know to do? How does anyone know to do anything? It's really overwhelming. It's kind of like another language.
Right.
What is selective color? The curves panel? Right. Color grading? Why do we have to learn this? Why can't we just apply a preset?
Yeah.
So, but now that am fluent in these software programs, I've realized that it is a lot like making soup. Like, you start with something like skin softening, or cleaning up the image first, and then skin softening, and then you maybe apply some warmth, and then you do contrast. So there's a real method to it, where it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. And like every chef kind of has a different way that they go about making soup. Artists do too. We might not all do it the same, but there can be a method, and most artists will have a method for how they do things.
I love that because that was something that I've noticed over, oh gosh, probably the last 5 years or so. Cause I'm always like buying a new editing course and it's like finding what everyone is in like their initial recipe. It's like, do they do the backdrop first? Do they work on the skin? Like, do they dodge and burn? Like, do they like, I want to know everything because, but then what happens is I stop thinking for myself. I forget that I'm like, and I start to try to piece everyone else's recipes and I'm like, okay, calm down. Go within. What's your recipe? What's your recipe?
Right.
Remember your recipe.
Totally. And I think it takes using, learning other recipes for a long time until you really understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
And when you have a deep understanding for what they're doing, then you can make your own. It's just like cooking. Like once I know what, like, you know, putting ginger and garlic does and turmeric and cumin, like, you know, that's for something that's not like an Italian soup. That's for like a curry or something. It's the same way with photography. And I just think a cooking analogy is nice because we all have a relationship with food in some way, whether we cook or not. So we all kind of understand the kitchen and the oven and the stovetop.
Totally. I love it. I grew up in a family where my parents don't follow recipes. My dad, like they are so creative in the kitchen and they can make a meal literally out of anything. And so I kind of grew up with having this no fear in the kitchen. And which is funny because when it comes to pulling up an image in Photoshop, the fear comes up. And I am trying to approach it in the same way I would approach making something in the kitchen. Like the worst case scenario is I'm going to make a really bad salmon curry and I'm going to throw it in the garbage and I'm going to order pizza. Like that's like the worst thing. And so I have to remind myself to not take it so seriously and to remember to enjoy it and to play.
Right. Because it's art. And there is so much freedom. And I learned that same lesson when we moved to the Caribbean. There would often be weeks where there were so many weeks, there were months of this, where the shipments, the boats would go on strike that would deliver food to the islands. There would be whole weeks where there was no new food. And the grocery stores would have like a soggy eggplant. That was all that would be in produce. I took pictures. Like there would be an eggplant in the produce section and no milk. And I'm like trying to raise a kid and I loved to cook at this point. And I was from Boulder, Colorado, like a natural organic hippie town and used to my, like organic food. And so I learned to make do with an eggplant. And that was really where I was able to apply some freedom with cooking. This is not a cooking show, but
I know, right? It's art and soul, right? And
but
food.
they apply, totally. They apply. So if we take that back to photography, so I used to use like recipes, like what other photographers would do and what I'd see them doing and buy presets and actions from them. And then as I've evolved, I really like to do my own homemade edits. I don't like to buy actions or presets or overlays from others. I really like to make and create my own. So it's a completely homemade image.
Yeah. We're cut from the same cloth and the same, like shooting my own skies. Like, I'm just like,
totally.
Right. Like there's just something when it feels homemade. And even like, I don't know if you've played at all with the AI that's happening and seen that in the industry, but it's interesting. Like there's a lot of different views on it, but I have done some playing with it and I'm like, I could see how this could be a part of a recipe, but not like the whole ingredient. Like what if you just took little pieces and then made your art on top of that?
Gosh, you and I feel like we could talk about this for the rest of the time. I am so not even torn. I feel like I wish I was more torn about AI. I feel so resistant to it. I feel like my husband was telling me about it. He was writing a newsletter for his vet practice and it's like heartworm time. So, and pets are needing to get heartworm. And he was like, I'm going to write an article on heartworm prevention. And he went into Chat GPT. And he was like, write me a 300-page article on heartworm prevention. And it did in 30 seconds. And then he said, now make it a little funny. And it made it a little funny. And he said, now make it in the Hunter Thompson style and make it Old English. Yeah. And in 5 seconds, it came up with this. And so he actually wrote a newsletter about what does this mean for all of the industries. But as he was telling me about this, I just felt like, what a blow. Like, what is going to happen to photography and why even look for pretty things. Like
Yeah.
why a field of flowers in backlight isn't going to mean as much because anyone can just sit on their computer and type in a few words and
Yeah.
something more beautiful will come up. So I don't know what's going to
I
happen,
know.
especially with the photography industry.
Yeah. I find it's really fascinating because I can see it really going either way. Like, it's like either you adapt and you adopt but like, what does that do to creativity? And that's
I
like,
know.
I have so many questions around it. And even like, cause I've used GPT and I'm like curious about it. Right. But I'm like, I think this would be a great tool used as like a, like a base.
Uh-huh.
And then you build and you add your own stories and
Yeah.
your personal
Right.
experiences and then
Yeah.
your own heart and
Right.
like you would do in photography. Like, I don't think you can AI your heart. So
Totally. And you can't AI moments. You can't,
no,
and that is something that does give me some reassurance. You can't fake a moment. You
no.
can't create that. So I just feel like it's going to go so fast. And I feel like it needs some incubation time
Yeah.
to make sure it's safe and for kids in
Yeah.
school
I
and writing
know.
papers and stuff. I was a lit
Yeah.
major, so think about
Yeah.
all the papers I wrote that can now just be written
Just like
five
in 30
seconds.
seconds. I know. It's mind boggling.
I
And
know.
even I hope it's like kind of like Bitcoin. Like, I don't really hear anything about Bitcoin now. I don't know
I
if it's still a
know.
thing. So
I
forgive me if
know.
you
I
guys are,
don't
if
think it's
listeners are
no.
like Bitcoin people and like, I don't know. No one talks about Bitcoin. So I'm hoping that maybe it's just like Bitcoin.
No. I hope it is too, but I don't think it is, Lisa.
I don't know. I really don't. I hope it's not how
I think
computers
it's an
take over the world.
exponential fire. I think
Yeah.
I think it's something that's really,
Right. And even being able to tell like what's original. Like,
I
what is
know.
original? What's originality? Like, because you put a prompt into a AI software, does that mean it's original? Who owns
I know.
the content?
Right.
Right?
Totally. And then when you're reading a book, how do you know that the author didn't write it from Chat GPT? And
Yeah.
maybe it's a great bestseller, but I don't know. It's
It just feel,
crazy.
I don't know. There's like an emptiness to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Wow, we went
I
on a
know.
tangent there. I love it.
I know. Sorry.
Now, one of the first videos I watched from your course was one of your daughter in a boat at sunrise. Now, can you share a little bit on the importance of personal projects, especially when it comes to our creativity?
Yes. So first of all, I'm just so thankful that my daughter is willing
She's
and happy to
game.
be my muse, and my son will too. My work is just very feminine, so
Yeah.
it often lands on my daughter. But I love when I have an idea that is kind of pushing out of my comfort zone, or something that, like an image that I want to create to print, that can serve as a reminder for where I want to go or what I want more of in my life, and then and making that image happen. And
Mm,
I feel like the most growth that has happened with me has come from personal projects where I
yeah.
have challenged myself to, do something on my own
Yeah.
that is outside of a, client's expectations. That's just one image. And it's so nice to also just shoot one image
Yeah.
sometimes. So I don't know if I answered your question very well, but I rely on personal projects
Yeah.
to push me creatively and
Yeah.
to also remind me of,
Yeah.
of where I want to be and what my priorities are.
I love that. For me, personal projects, I get overwhelmed and I get almost like in this hamster wheel of busy,
Yeah.
busy, 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 busy. And I
Mhm.
start to get sad. And it's not that I suffer from depression per se. It's just that I feel creative stagnation. And that really is not a good place for me to be in. And so this past year, I started doing personal projects where I am photographing myself. And part of the reason that came was because every time I would do a model call and do a personal project, I would take forever to edit, and it would make me feel bad. Like they're waiting for me,
Mhm.
and that now it's no longer for me. It's now
Yeah.
for them. And
Uh-huh.
that wasn't the purpose of doing the personal project in the first place. And now everything feels crappy because now I feel like I
Uh-huh.
owe them, like I owe my clients. And it's creativity on demand, not because I'm creating from my heart. So
which was the reason you wanted to do it. Yeah.
So when I made myself the model, it's been really transformative on just like, it can be a month or two and I haven't done one. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go down and I'm going to make a piece of art today. And I'm the subject and I might not edit it for 2 months, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's so important that we remember to create for ourselves.
Oh my gosh. It's everything. And I think also it is Lindsay Adler did a keynote speak at Clickaway last year. And one of the really things that I love that she said was that she used for a long time, I don't know if she still does, but Sundays as her personal project day. And she would just, kind of research and think about it throughout the week, plan ahead of time, and then she'd get a shot that she wanted to shoot like on Sundays. And I'm not that disciplined with it because I have so many forks in the fire. Yeah, I have so many things. And sometimes I really need to honor just like that it's Sunday and I need to rest. But those personal projects, I just love them. They help me, they push me, they help me try new lighting, they help me try all kinds of new things. And I feel like I can speak from my heart, especially when it's like a self-portrait or if it's with one of my family members. It's really can be heart-centered.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you did a really neat one with I think it was your mom and your daughter and the knitting and the pups. And that was such a cool one too. And you shared that in the course as well. I loved that.
Yeah. We were all sitting there knitting and my mom was like, I'd love a picture of 3 generations knitting. And I was like, well, I can make that happen.
You're like, I know the girl to do that.
I've got you. Yeah. Let's do this right now. Do you really want that? Are you sure? Because now you're getting it.
I know, right? Well, it's funny because you have the Cam Ranger. Is that right? The Cam Ranger Mini? I actually bought that because to do my self-portrait because I saw you use it and I was like, ooh, I need this. This is like way better than running back and forth. Like huge. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that because it helped me so much.
Yeah. Now you can just like dial everything in and
on
then
your phone.
On your phone, and then you can stuff your phone in your pocket or just pop it on a chair nearby, and you can change the white balance. You can change all the settings, and then you can have it go to a timer. My Nikon here will only let me take 10 frames when I'm using the timer, but this will let you take 100. As many as you want. I'll do 10 because I don't like to call that many, or maybe sometimes I'll do 15. Yeah. And you can tell it how long you want them apart. It's amazing.
I love it. I love that you're Nikon too.
Yeah, you are. Which one do you have?
I've got the Z7 II, and it's funny because I was shooting. I've been shooting the D5 for like eons, and so I bought the Z7 II, and I am such a slow adopter of mirrorless. Like it is a huge adjustment for me. The
size alone is a lot different.
Right?
I have the Z9.
I bought the battery grip, so it felt bigger.
Yeah. Right. Well, if you want to lose a lot of money from your wallet, the Z9 is, it's kind of it's their flagship right now. And it's as big as like the D8. It's as big as the D5. Yeah. And it kind of looks like it has a battery pack, but it doesn't. The battery's giant. But it's incredible. I love it. I've never loved a camera so much.
I love it. Well, it's been about 3 years since I upgraded, so might be time.
You need some pro photo
new lights. I know. Sponsorship. No, just kidding. Totally kidding.
No, but totally.
Yeah, right.
You're like, no, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, that would be nice. I love it. So can you maybe share your advice for someone who really is just kind of feeling uninspired, stuck, and just in the monotony of their business, and maybe how you can extract yourself from exhaustion and burnout to get back to creativity?
That's a good one. So this would be for the business owner, right? This question. The best piece of advice that I have is something that was really hard for me, is saying no. I only do 2 sessions a week now. I used to do 10 to 15 in the summer and fall. I also take July and August off because I want to be with my kids. I can't take June off because it's just too pretty. And
I know.
And I feel like I need another pretty month because Colorado can be so brown and gray. Right. So I do shoot through June, but take less work.
Yeah.
And I know that's really hard, but your art will be so much better and you will be so much better of a human being. I am like never stressed anymore because I just do 2 shoots a week and I can totally manage that, plus teaching, plus my kids, plus having friends and like going to sleep early, which I like to do. You know, I can manage 2 clients a week. If I didn't have children and I wasn't teaching, then I could do 10 to 12 clients a week. But if you have other forks in the fire and you're wanting to grow in other areas, just do less. I feel like we push ourselves and we grind and we're so scared of saying no to people. And we just say yes to everything, even the things that don't necessarily spark joy. We find ourselves saying yes. And we're like, why did I say yes to that? I didn't even want to do that. But when you do less and you just say yes to the things that like really spark joy in your heart, everything about your life is better. And I'm so much more inspired.
Yeah.
I'm constantly inspired. And I haven't had a drought in a long time. And I know, I'm sure one is coming, but I think it's because I have room in my life to breathe and I'm not overpacking my schedule.
It's so true. For me, I realized that when the pandemic hit and I was still shooting probably 10 to 12 clients, maybe 20 clients a month was what I was averaging and running 2 companies. And I was so burnt out that when I finally had to like just slam and hit the wall and then sort of start up again, I was like, I don't know if this is what I want anymore.
Yeah.
And it finally gave that space just to have that reflection of going, okay, well, I really do have the opportunity to design the business and life that I want. So we got one shot here on this earth. Am I living it the way I want to be?
Absolutely. I think COVID was such a time for people to reassess and reprioritize. And also it's like when you remove sugar from your diet for a while and then you reintroduce it and it's like kind of shocking how much it affects you. I think that happened with all of us with just kind of unplugging and then realizing that we have a choice about what we say yes to and how much that can really, like you said, impact designing the life that you love and how we can all be obsessed with our lives if we want. We can love our lives. Yeah. And I think it really is about saying no a lot more than we are trained to do.
Yeah. What I found this past fall was actually the first fall I didn't do any fall family sessions. And normally I'm shooting like 2 to 3 every night. And so I don't cook dinner. My family doesn't see me. And so this past year, like my son and my husband were like well fed. I think we all gained 10 pounds and like, but we just had so much family time and everybody flourished. And I was like, you know, even though I felt like I was letting so many people down saying no, it was exactly what I needed in my life at that moment. And like, so it had to be a yes. Like, you got to put your family first, right?
Right. It's fascinating that we will let down our inner circle to say yes and to not let down people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is about our culture, I think it's hard to turn down money. And I think there's this whole model of scarcity versus abundance. But once you just like lean into abundance and you prioritize and you even like take pictures of and hang them up of what your priorities are, you write them down and you say yes to those things, it changes your life. I wish I'd known that sooner because I said yes to everything when my kids were little and I grew my business and I made a ton of money and I missed a lot of nights with them, and I was stressed. I was like so stressed. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, life is so peaceful now. And I'm a fun, nice mom. I don't think my kids even realize I have a job and I work really hard and I create a lot of content, but I'm not stressed doing it.
No. I've had the exact same journey and it's just been like, I want to say, like, I don't want to say regret, but I do have regret. Like, I feel like I don't know if it's mother's guilt or like regret or that I didn't realize how finite the time that we have with our children is in the moment. Yeah. And I think like, cause I was working so hard and just trying to like be the best photographer and like, and I really achieved a lot of goals and money that I wanted, but there was a cost and I didn't see it at the time.
And sometimes I do wonder though, if instead of, now I would go back and do things differently if I could, but now I can choose. I have clients that wait a year to book me and that pay 4 and 5 figures at every session. And that did come on the back of all that hard work and all those years that I put in. And so I think there is also value in that, and value in our kids seeing that we have to sacrifice to work really hard. And look what can happen pretty quickly when you do work pretty hard. Like we still have kids to raise and we've prioritized it, you know, so I do wonder how much.
Created some business boundaries, which I think that, you know, you kind of have to go through it to realize it. It's part of the journey.
Right. And if you have boundaries, really strong boundaries at the beginning, you might not build your business. You know, you kind of do have to stretch out. Yeah. And then you can scale back.
Yeah, I agree. Gosh, good conversation. Okay, so I want to talk about Wacom tablets because I have 2 Wacom tablets. I have 1 display Wacom tablet, and I still edit on my trackpad with my mouse. So I've never learned how to use them properly. So what advice do you have on learning how to use it? So no, actually, you know what? I'm lying. I have 3 of them and I have a display.
Oh my God.
I don't use them.
Okay. So mine's pretty small, and here's a pen, and it has this like fancy fountain pen holder. So it's like, feels like the only difference between this and a mouse is that if you want to be, here, I'll show you. Like if you want it to be up, can you see okay?
Yep.
So let's say this is your picture, the tablet is your picture, and you want to be up here with your mouse. Well, with a mouse, or you want to be up here with your cursor. With a mouse, you can be up on the top of the screen wherever your mouse is. You know, you can, but with a pen, you can only be at the top when your pen's on top. So it's like a drawing. It's like a piece of paper. So if you want to be down here, there's no dragging. You just draw down here. And if you want to be in the middle, you just touch the middle. And I think it takes 20 minutes of just only using your pen, like do emails and poke around, and then you'll get it.
Okay, this may sound like the silliest question. Okay, so is the pen actually touching the pad, or am I hovering over top of it?
Touching it. It's touching it. You're actually drawing on it. And it'll get, like mine, I probably need to put a new little nib in there because it'll wear down kind of like a pencil because you're drawing so much.
Because I think what's happening is I'm taking mine and I'm actually hovering over top, and my hand is getting sore because I'm just hovering. Like I'm actually not drawing right on the pad.
Oh yeah, you draw right on it. Yeah,
okay.
Like a pencil. Yeah.
User error.
Pro tip. Yep, you draw right on it.
Right on it. Okay, I think I've just been afraid to like scratch it or I don't know. So I keep buying another one.
Oh, don't buy anymore. You have enough.
Seriously. I'm learning how to use it. Okay.
So that makes editing. It makes a huge difference with editing. You can go so much more fine-tuned. Yeah.
I'm going to try it. So I think one of the most important things as a creative is maintaining the mindset of always being a learner and that there is always something new to learn. So I have to ask you, what are you interested in learning?
Always light.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always more to learn with light and more advanced lighting setups, learning how to really like sculpt light and shape it and fine tune it and let it like wrap around my subject. So I'm always learning light. And I think posing is something that I'm really focusing on a little bit more right now. I know, I've been doing this for 12 years, but I think posing is something that I'm wanting to get a little more fine tuned with. Yeah. So those are some things I'm learning right now.
I love that.
And I love learning and pushing myself to grow. I think that is another thing that really keeps me inspired to keep creating is when I'm challenging myself. Yeah. Otherwise it just gets boring.
I know, right? Like I love just watching someone else edit something and going, oh, that's how they do it. Like I do it this way, but like, ooh, I want to try that. Like, how do they do that? I love that. I love that.
I need to learn more editing. I need to watch more other people editing videos.
I love editing. I love it. I have so many memberships. I have way too many.
What do you, besides Adobe?
More for like educational memberships. I like because we've got so many teachers at the Milky Way and like incredible artists. And I'm always like, I always just want to know how people do things. So I'll just sign up for everybody's stuff and happily give my money and support teachers and learn stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You're amazing. It's so important to keep learning, even the basics.
Yes. Yeah. Because the basics even change, right? Like Lightroom is always coming out with new things, like the whole masking stuff and like
amazing.
Yeah. Like compared to like where we first started. I know.
Yeah.
Right? It is kind of AI. Right?
Yeah. It finds the sky for you. Yeah. Or the subject's eyes.
I know, right? It is a little creepy, but I use it.
I do too. I love it. So there's my line. There's my AI line. I like what Lightroom's dishing out.
I love it. Have you heard about their new one, Adobe Firefly? That's coming out. They're coming out with their own AI. I've just signed up for the beta. So I'm curious because I'm so curious.
Make images?
I don't know. Like it sounds like you can make images and text, and I'm like very curious about that, and I want to know about it before I use it.
Gosh, you're great. I love that is such a sign of a learner because I am so resistant to that. I'm just like feel like old fashioned that I'm just like, no, I want AI.
I'm just, I think just curious. And I'm like, how can I use this as a tool and not as something that is the be all? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like when film camera came and digital cameras came.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, these amazing digital cameras that we are now putting on auto. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you shoot manual?
Right. You don't even need to know how to shoot.
But don't you want to know? Like,
right.
Like, I want to know. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna follow your AI journey and
delve it into it a little bit. Okay. I'm going to tiptoe anyway. So you ready for our lightning round?
Sure.
Okay. Oceans or mountains, and why?
Mountains, because I love the seasons too much. Although I'm a mermaid heart and I love to swim. But to live, I'm going to say mountains.
Love it. What was your favorite TV show as a kid?
I didn't really watch TV as a kid, but I loved the Disney movie, The Little Mermaid. My sister and I had a summer where we watched that movie every single day and memorized every word of that entire movie. We could recite the movie, like on a car ride.
I love that. My sisters and I were like that with Grease, and we can still we still know all the words. All the words.
Yeah, that's long-term memory right there.
Right? Yeah. Last thing you did for yourself as an indulgence?
Went to Paris.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was indulgent.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A teacher.
Love it. Do you have any personal projects going on right now? And if you can share, what is it?
I mean, I'm always working on like a personal flowers through the seasons project. I need to work on my project with my son. I have a measuring his height and hugs project that I do, and I need to update that because he's now taller than me. I guess those two. Those two are top of mind right now.
Those are great. Favorite guilty or not so guilty pleasure?
Dark chocolate.
Ooh, yeah.
And a glass of wine while I'm cooking.
Nice. Next question. What's for dinner tonight?
What's for dinner tonight? You know what? I'm going to make those fajitas. I think his name is, what's his name on Instagram? David Prescott. I'll get back to you on his name. He's this amazing chef. And he made these pan fajitas where he put everything all in the pan, like veggies, and he used chicken. I'm a vegetarian, but he put chicken and then like paprika and all these spices and lime zest and lime, and then put it in the oven and roasted it, and then came out and put like this cheese sauce and stuff, and then just scooped it up and put it in a tortilla. That's what I'm going to make for dinner tonight.
Nice. I love it. We're making beef stroganoff.
Oh, yum. Yep. That's good. That's comforting.
Comfort food. What is something you've accomplished as an adult that your younger self would be proud of?
Oh, that's a really nice question. My family, this safe house that I live in, my sweet husband, just this life, this safe, trauma-free for there's lots of traumas in life, but this safe home. I'm so proud of that.
I love that. Where do you feel most authentically yourself?
In the water when I'm swimming.
God. What would your dream shoot be?
I feel like I get to do my dream shoots all the time, just under a big sky with beautiful light, or even in my studio when I'm creating beautiful light with flowers, sky, light.
Love it.
Those are the ingredients for my perfect shoot. And then throw in a subject that I love, and that's it.
I love it. What has been the best piece of business advice you've ever been given?
It came from one of my dearest friends. She's just a sister to me. She's a photographer. We met at a workshop many, many years ago, and she runs an incredible business. And she told me to value myself from the beginning. And that just became imprinted in every single thing that I did for my business. And it has just shaped my whole career.
I love that. What advice do you have for someone who's just starting out?
Say no. Make sure you have your priorities set in your heart and keep them at the forefront of every single thing that you say yes to.
Yeah. So where can our listeners learn more from you?
I announce everything on my Instagram, Smitten and Swoon. So any upcoming classes I have there, I have several things coming up. I have a class, as you mentioned right now. It's called For the Love of Light, and it's a video-based, there's 18 videos I show behind the scenes and edits of 15 images. I have a farm and fairy tale workshop that it's sold out. It's in my backyard, and it's going to be in August and September. I did 2 of them because there were so many people interested, which was amazing. So I'll probably do that again next year. And I have a business workshop actually coming out in a few weeks through Click Photo School as well. It's called The Art of Abundance, and it's business strategies for the boutique photographer. So lots coming up. I'm going to click away.
Yes.
Teaching there. Yeah.
I love that. So I love to end my interviews just with this last question. And it is, what are you currently curious about or artistically curious about?
That's a good question. I wasn't prepared for this one. I think what I said before, what I'm trying to learn right now is just more advanced lighting, just like really honing in on the fine-tuned details of how to shape light and how to really sculpt with light in a more fine-tuned way. That is something that I'm really curious about lately, and I'm trying to really pay attention to.
Well, D'Ann, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my beautiful friends, I hope you loved this conversation just as much as I did. I am sending you so much of my light and my love today and every single day. We'll see you next time.